Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Hope we're enjoying this President's Day weekend. Maybe you're having some fun. I don't know. Of course, we don't have off, but on Mondays. But nevertheless, here I am. Okay, so what do we have as far as what's going on? Let's do a couple of things actually. First, some important things actually that I came across. Maybe even a little embarrassing to say this, but I actually have been three things actually. I've been teaching people the wrong Associated Press style point for a couple of years apparently. I haven't made a big deal about Associated Press style. I got to be honest with you, okay? Because I feel like it's being de-emphasized in the whole thing. But I just wanted to let you know that actually the percent sign actually is used as a symbol. And boy, I'm probably not telling you anything new, but I've been, it had been long a cardinal rule that actually percent was spelled out. They used to make a big deal about that, but it was changed. So I I don't think I ever really marked anybody down for Associated Press style by the end of the semester because it was what it was, and I just dealt with it. But there are some important ones. I would say like getting numbers right and things like that. The percent symbol. What I'm saying is actually there were some Associated Press style points that I just kind of de-emphasized, and that was probably one of them. So, but my main priority basically is just to make sure that actually it's um, that we have these stories accurate, clear, and focused. So, second thing is that things I learned new. I wasn't even aware that there was a Canvas app. I didn't actually start using Canvas till like about a year and a half ago. I was using Sakai, which was antiquated as hell. So I actually finally got the freaking app, if you can believe that. And one of the students, thank you, Jennifer Platt, told me that you guys actually get alerts to it. Again, boy, I'm really sounding like an old fogey on this lecture, aren't I? So apparently, to help people know that they should be watching these lectures, I'm going to be basically creating assignment entries for the lecture videos to make sure that you watch them and putting deadlines on them. And because the reason for that is because um, you'll get an alert on your phone apparently if you do. So just know that actually, obviously there is a Canvas app, and it's called Canvas Student. So just find it for Rutgers University and then take it from there. Okay. So I'll be moving that over to the. I'll still be sending out an email, etc., noting people about the lecture, but you'll be getting one more alert now, telling you that that there's a new lecture that's posted, and you should watch it. Okay, and it does appear that actually you guys are watching it because I am seeing vast improvement on these stories, and thank you for that. However, here's the third thing we need to talk about. We apparently only have like two or three, maybe two discussion points that two students have participated in discussion points, and we got a week left for this assignment on crime on Rutgers campus. So we really, really, really need people to participate in that. I have students who are in other countries, half a globe away, so or totally around the globe. So we need people to participate in that because we have people who are not on campus. Okay, and again, that's extremely important because it's again what's we need people to participate because we don't have a classroom. This is our classroom. We don't have a physical classroom, so we need people to basically participate in and we need people to provide information for these stories. And again, this is part of your class participation grade. Okay. All right. So as I alluded to, you guys did do a good job on these rewrites. You all should have gotten back. Don't forget that the rewrites on the leads are in. Usually around this time of year, I get people who are concerned about their grade. Understandably, the warning grades will actually be coming out soon. So I have actually done this is when that's fine. That's great. It's actually I now have a bunch of one-on-one scheduled office hours, if you will, with people, and which I do through Zoom. It's extremely important, I would say, for people who are struggling, or anybody really, to basically work on their grade. I know some of you still confused by what maybe the comments and everything are made on the papers and everything because they weren't quite there. So it's much better for me to actually address that if you have, I mean, if you have any kind of grade, you should talk to me. It's fine. It's great. But if you get like a C plus or lower on an assignment, you definitely should talk to me. Okay. Especially if you get a D or an F. Okay. So, but if you get a C plus or lower, you should be talking to me. Okay. Because, it's been very rare when I've had like a first assignment and somebody, if you get like a B or higher on the first assignment, ultimately, usually almost always they get an A for the semester. Okay. As long as they keep rewriting and keep participating. So if you get like a C plus or lower on the first assignment, you really should talk to me because I don't think you have quite like a grasp on what you need to do to write a publishable story. Okay. All right. Let me just show you a couple of stories. Actually, one that worked and one that was close, but it's kind of a common issue I see in these stories, and that's basically trying to update them so that they are new and fresh. Okay. Okay. And I'm just kind of dealing with, got that. Just 1 second, if you will. Okay, I actually had to stop the recording for a second because I hit a button that caused a pinwheel and that was an issue. So, all right, so let me go back to share. Okay, all right, so what we got here? Okay, not Yeehaw. Okay, I want to pick the other one. This is Jennifer Zinn's story here. So here we have a story basically like Hai Zinn is a holder of 3 patents telecommunications and has published his computer vision research in multiple, so significant, unique. Some of this stuff happened a while ago, okay? And this is difficult because basically, again, how do you update? What does this mean to them now? That sort of thing. Well, if it doesn't have to be necessarily in the lead, but up high, you basically see he attributes his current mindset and accomplishments to the computer vision research he did. So basically, he's showing his current work is basically successful because of what he did in the past. Okay. So that was one way Jennifer actually helped bring an aid to her story because she showed why this matters now. Because so much can happen. I mean, a person could be, I was just actually talking to somebody who was another, student who basically said that I was trying to figure out what was the new angle to the story. And it was interesting because the person she was writing about was a person who served in Iraq a long time ago, just for a year, and now is getting married and has a totally different job and the whole thing. So my first initial thought was, well, let's write about that person being in Iraq, but that was a long time ago. So, what is it? But he still has he still has feelings about it because actually, on the one hand, he has some resentment about what happened. The other hand, it actually helped him basically create a new career for himself because of the GI Bill. And now he's an accountant who works for New York City. So the story is about something that happened a while ago, but it's updated. Iraq war veteran, now successful accountant in New York City. And largely because of the military experience I had that helped. Okay. Here's an example of a story where I thought that, we could have actually used those sorts of resources and everything that were actually down. I probably saw there's a lot of stories just that down toward the bottom of the story. We have a lead where it says, Amy Wang was beaming with joy as she served her first customers, but that happened in 2020. Okay, so my big question was, well, what about now? Because I've seen success stories about businesses where they were actually managed well and they were thriving in 2020, but because it just got too hard 2 years later and the economy just suddenly was just too much. And despite all the heroic things they did in 2020, they had to shut down in 2022. Well, so, that was a long time ago now. So my point was, and I saw a lot of this written in stuff like this, written people's bottom paragraph. Well, by that point, all the readers are gone, no conclusions. Okay. You don't write a conclusion at the end of your story. Your conclusion is your first graph. It's an upside down story. Your conclusion is basically, or your first couple graphs. Amy Wang was beaming with joy because she was successful. She helped, with her newest fruit vending outlet, Beijing, in 2020. And now at this point, now we look at it, there's like a new branch and everything. She opened up a second branch and stuff like that. So it was all about how all of the stuff that she did was great and everything in 2020, but it's even gotten greater since then. What I was saying was, and then I'll look back at the proud work I've had, success today. I mean, this is an even bigger story, and it was buried, this part. Okay. It's an even bigger story about the great stuff he did in the COVID during the early stages of the COVID. This person now has a successful business the other way around. It hasn't shut down. It's actually like even gotten stronger. So, that's why like the newest thing is important. And I see people, maybe because you feel like you're almost kind of like used to writing things in chronological order. It was down on the bottom of the story. It had to be moved up. Okay. All right. So anyway, those are all back. And yes, I think it's a great idea if actually everybody does actually, get to me and talk to me one-on-one, especially with the situation we have. Yes, I know this happened in 2019. This is the percent sign thing anyway. But anyway, and basically we talk about, like how to make your work better, how to get on the right page. Okay. It's totally understandable to feel maybe confused at this point. Totally get it. Okay. We're doing distance learning right now. It's not easy, but we're doing the best we can. Okay. Yes, and this is actually a page which I actually plan to send out to people, basically saying that now the percent sign is actually okay to use. And again, I apologize for that. All right, so we're still kind of at the point of like dealing with, like, I would say, news structure, writing structure. I do not have a new assignment for you. I'm slowing things down a little bit because I think I actually was moving a little bit too fast, but I think we're getting to a good place now overall. We're actually reaching I guess that almost the halfway point of the semester. So I actually plan to do more. As I said, the first half of the semester deals with writing more, second half deals with reporting more. So we're going to be doing a new assignment next week. I'm actually going to be sending you guys a video that's already been done, and it's going to be a story. We're going to have to report things out. Okay. That'll be done. That'll be done next week. I'll be, again, I know we have spring break coming up, so we want to make sure that I don't want to make sure you don't bog you down with too much work or like that when you have to do spring break while doing spring break. So also we don't have a lot of reading left. You see, like now the chapters get to their single chapters at a time, but I did assign you guys one, for this week, basically chapter 11. These are the most important chapters we've had in the book so far. The later ones kind of deal with more of the, taking reporting to a new level, that sort of thing. But these deal with the basics. And this one actually deals with chapter 11 deals with reporting. Okay. Some of which we've dealt with already. And interviewing, interviewing. Okay. Normally I would have an opportunity to actually it's good to have an in-person class where you can actually lean over somebody's shoulder and watch them interview, but we'll do the best we can with this. And the thing about interviewing is it's and I've said some of this is going to overlap with what I said before, but again, the idea with interviewing is that you really need to basically understand that the interview process is something that really has to be almost a structured process in itself. Sometimes that's not possible because sometimes you're dealing with the breaking news and things are on the fly and you have to almost make it up as you go along. And there is and even when you do prepare for an interview, sometimes things will take you in a different direction. Somebody will reveal something and it'll kind of set you down that road where you have to kind of shift direction a bit. I guess a good example of that would be that's another reason why I do those leads assignments. Again, the rewrites for that due on Monday. Did I say Monday? I'm sorry. Actually, no, I keep saying it. Actually, that's another important thing. Actually, I sent out, oh no, that was somebody, that was another class. Anyway, the rewrites for that is due on Monday, right? So anyway, there's that one that deals with and I'm going to give away something again, the chocolate Easter bunny and the person who got burned because he ate his wife's chocolate Easter bunny. I mean, if you're going through a process where you're interviewing somebody and you have a set list of questions that are based on the who, what, where, why, when of everything, sometimes you'll get, like, as they say in baseball, a curve thrown at you, a surprise pitch. And, you want to be ready for it because you always want to allow yourself the opportunity to be surprised. And in this particular case, it was that not only did he, like, get set on fire by his wife, but it happened because of the chocolate Easter bunny, for crying out loud. So then, like, you probably want to head down that direction and find out, like, why that happened. You have to kind of almost like do kind of like a shape shifting situation when you're interviewing based on what you're getting. One thing you try to keep in mind when you're actually doing the interview is you want to, like, think about, what is it that, just one second, actually had this. You want to think about the again, the who, what, where, why, but almost in a way that, like, maybe you're almost like you can almost try to write the story in your head as you're actually, like, doing the story. Okay. And I'm actually just trying to get to, I'm not sure why I didn't have this up earlier, trying to get to the little whiteboard that I have set up. So first thing you try to do, especially like with these profile assignments, is you should almost like try to diagram your preparation. Who, again, with the W's, who, what, where, with one H, why, how, and when. Okay. All right. So, particularly with these profile assignments, you want to, like, obviously you want to make sure you get the person's name. You want to know, what do they do? Okay. What about them is significant? So you want to make sure that, like, you get all these are all very basic questions. I always say, and I've said this before to you guys again, is that, the actual story resembles a conversation, but the interview process does not necessarily. I mean, it actually really typically starts off like an awkward job interview. Okay. I get asked that all the time. How do you start off an interview? Think of going, like, macro to micro. You want to get, like, the general stuff out first, macro to micro. Okay. You want to get the basic stuff out first. Person's name, what they do, what do they do? We go here. What about it makes them enjoy or not enjoy it? Okay. Obviously, you want to get the basics about, like, where they do it, because that matters for the story. Because if it happens nearby, that's significant to the reader. Okay. Where, why? Okay. Why do they do it? Okay. Maybe I was going to that example before about the fruit stand. Okay. Persisted because maybe nobody else could, and because and why do they get successful? Because they persisted. Okay. It's interesting, like, you go through a process where you're actually doing a story on somebody, you start off with this very general stuff, so if I'm writing about somebody who opened up a fruit stand in 2020 and basically during the pandemic, you might not learn that right away. Okay. But if you go through when you ask the question, what do they do? Why do I have a fruit stand? Well, that's interesting. You're still not necessarily getting the unique, interesting angle about it. Okay. But then once you ask, like, why you do it, and then that's where they could come up. It could come on question 3 or 4 or 5. They persisted because of the success they had during 2020, and they persisted during COVID and that sort of thing. And now they're even more successful. That's when maybe you need to kind of really, like, sharpen the focus, just like you would in a story over your interview. Head down that track, because that's when they call it reporter radar. When something goes off in your head and you say, like, oh my God, I didn't know that. Chocolate Easter bunny, I didn't know that. And you head down that direction, and then you ask the who, what, where, why, when questions about that. Like, well, how are you doing now? What was it about it that you did that actually, like, essentially made it successful? How would you able to persist, while you were going on? How'd you have enough capital, as they say? Okay. How did you do it? All right. So you do what you can. You try to prepare yourself, maybe a list of questions, that sort of thing. And then, as I said before, it's really important to listen to what's being said. And I've used this example before. Again, we had a student in like my psychology class who wrote down everything. We got better grades than she did because we didn't write down everything. We read her notes if we missed class. Yes, I admit that. Sorry. But it's because if you're doing a situation where you're just listening, but you're not actually like learning anything from it or reading it or internalizing it, you're not going to learn anything. Okay. So it's important. It's a lot of times reporters don't, when they bring their notebook to an interview, but they don't even write anything down right away because they want to listen and understand first. Okay. So the first thing to really do is listen and internalize. Again, mentioned this before. Okay. Really kind of get understanding of what's being said. And then you start to write, but you summarize like you would in notes. Okay. You want to write some lines down because maybe they have a good quote and you want to use those words exactly and make sure you get the quote right. Or, obviously use an audio recorder, that sort of thing. But it's also really good at the same time. It's really a good exercise to actually take the actual physical notes with a pen at the same time, because you want to have the backup with the recording, but you want to know at the same time also, like, um, you want to write down like some notes that are important, basically, because that helps you actually kind of keep track of what's going on. It's a good brain exercise. I mean, at the very least, maybe you listen to the recording later if you have the time, and or you get a transcript. That's actually done a lot nowadays, and you kind of highlight the areas you think that are important. But if you actually write them down as you're actually listening, you actually like are making mental notes to yourself. It actually helps you even like better understand, because you're making notes to yourself, and then you can ask better follow-up questions and head down that more focused track. Okay. All right. So preparing for the interview. This chapter 11, basically kind of goes over like some of the things that you really need to do as like in terms of like a checklist. And they go into feature investigation. Let's look at news, obviously facts, details, including names, locations. Yeah, you want to, even though you're not going to write in chronological order necessarily, but you want to get a chronology of things that happen, particularly like maybe with like a murder case or something, or any kind of crime case. You want to know what led up to whatever. Okay. And that will actually give you an idea, like with the chocolate Easter bunny, like what led up to this person, like actually taking like liberties and burning somebody else. you know Context and perspective is important, because you want to make sure that, especially if it's like something that like maybe like never happened before, or maybe it's like rare to the area, it presents something as something unique. Okay. Anecdotes, I've talked about that. I've gone over the structure of a story that really gets to the nitty gritty of what's going on. If you're doing a story about crime in campus, you want to get maybe like you want to get people's personal experiences, or maybe just like not even necessarily direct experiences where they've had to deal with crime, but basically they've had the same they've had to deal with, or they've heard about things where they feel fear because of what they've heard about, and that sort of thing. So that's somebody's personal experiences. That's important. Okay. Okay. So let's just keep going here. How many sources are enough? Well, let me just kind of summarize here, but I mean, I always say like 3 to 5 on stories. Okay. And especially on a story like the story we're doing about crime, it's good to get like an odd number, to be honest with you, if you're trying to get a consensus opinion on people, because there's like a way to break the tie. So you want to like basically try to get, some sort of like majority feeling. Sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. It just ends up being a mixed opinion or something. But if you only get, the one thing you want to really try to avoid is a single source story. A single source story basically is a biased story. It basically presents only one person's perspective, and that's not enough. It's important to get 3 to 5. Okay, at the very least. Okay, and that goes. I mean, beginning of the semester we did the profile stories, which I just sent back to you guys, the rewrites. But actually, quite honestly, I only do those stories as like a very elementary way to begin the semester. It's actually important to actually, no matter what the story is, to get more than one source. And if you're doing a profile story, you should actually get more than one source. When you think about it, like, you know, you know, is I mean, obviously, I would say by default, the person you're profiling is going to be the best source for your story. But do you think that person's going to be the most objective? No. That's why it's important to get somebody else, another perspective. And you see that like when you see stories about controversial figures or something, you get people who are typically critics to that person who are injected into the story to provide some sort of balance. But it doesn't say it to be like a kind of somebody who's against somebody, but just another perspective to kind of throw shade, or maybe they know something about that person that the person himself, or him or herself, doesn't know. Okay, or their self. So themselves. So it's always important to basically have like multiple people, talking about that subject. Okay. I'm just kind of like moving through here. Obviously trying to make your situation as comfortable as possible. When you're doing the interview, I mean, a lot of people are doing interviews now on Zoom, I mean, that's fine too. I mean, that's actually like what we do on my job at the insurance trade, so, um, so, you want to make sure that actually like people feel comfortable and that they can hear you. You got to ask tough questions. It says sugarcoat questions, asking a person. Sometimes like, basically like, you don't want to be deceptive or anything like that, but but asking somebody like, why are you a jerk? That's not necessarily the way direction to go. You want to try to like, I mean, you don't want to say this about bad people or anything like that, but you want to basically like you try to find some sort of empathy for whatever person you're interviewing, even if they're doing like they've done some bad stuff, if that's possible. I mean, I've actually interviewed a murderer. I've interviewed a few of them actually, and and one of the things I was really trying to find out like what led up to this person's situation. Okay, you don't want to ever excuse what a person did, that'd be as so horrible as that. Okay, but at the same time, like I'm kind of from the school that where maybe people aren't necessarily born evil. Okay, so a lot of it has to do with environment. So, all right. So you know what? I've been giving like really long lectures and everything. So I just wanted to actually make this one a little shorter for once. We only have one chapter to deal with, and I had some important points to bring up. Just remember what's due, and also, like I said, just remember you're going to get those lectures now posted, not just in emails and stuff like that, an announcement, but you're also now going to get it as an assignment. Okay, with a week deadline on it. Okay. All right. Well, thanks very much, guys. I appreciate it, and I'll be talking to you.